reviews of performances in Canberra, Melbourne and Sydney attest to their capabilities, the 43 members of the choir were deep in rehearsal this afternoon under founder and conductor Eric Eriksson. The Newcastle programme, which will begin at 8 o'clock, will consist of works by Brahms, Mahler, Bach and Schoenberg and their homeland composer Lars Hedlund. The 43 choristers aged from 18 to 30, all students of the Academy, are said to have fabulous tone and interpretation, the product of fastidious training by Eric Eriksson.
Witnessed an excellent display of controlled all-black running rugby. All-black coach Alex Wiley had been disappointed with New Zealand's test form last weekend, but today's effort must have brought a smile to his face. The All Blacks ran in 8 tries with Philpott, Schuster, Brook, Earl and Bashop sharing in the feast. Boddicker kicked 5 conversions and 1 penalty goal. The New South Wales B side played as well as they were allowed, with tiny halfback Brad Burke the best. Schuster, Brook and Boddicker starred for the All Blacks. Today's team was well below test strength, and with the 3rd test looming in Sydney, Australia seems set for a titanic struggle.
More than 300 workers, tradesmen, architects and engineers attended the concert, the first full performance since the hall was completed. Built at a cost of more than $5 million, the impressive building took 18 months to get to this stage. Employees of local builder R.T. Parker, subcontractors and public works employees were treated to a full program of music by members of the Conservatorium staff. Michael Duggan, the principal, played the purpose-built organ. Robert Constable was among a number of pianists on the programme. Kevin Murphy, accompanied by Anne O'Hearn, played the clarinet. And Ray Carney played guitar. This was also the first acoustic test for the auditorium, and by all accounts it passed with flying colours. Sunday the 31st of July marks the first of a week of lunchtime and evening concerts which will be open to the public.
During his visit, the Minister was briefed on several issues relating to the Water Board, including the latest developments at the Burwood Beach construction site. Earlier in the day, Mr Moore made an aerial inspection of areas to be sewered as part of the Lake Macquarie sewage scheme. He also flew over the Glenrock State Recreation Area and Merriweather Quarry. Mr Moore says there are many land use conflicts which have to be resolved in that area and timetables which must be firmly established.
It was the question of whether the gun club remains on its present site or gets moved somewhere else, and if so, to where, when the quarry closes, what is done about rehabilitation of the quarry, if anything. Now, a lot of those questions have just been left unanswered for the last 4 or 5 years since the proposal was firmed up, I think, in '85. I hope to have those timetables finalised by the end of 1988.
Meanwhile, the Water Board plans to make its first land handover to the National Parks and Wildlife Service for addition to the recreation area next month. The first package of 38 hectares of land is southwest of Burwood Beach. The Minister was also briefed on the Board's pricing policy and the Hunter Fringe Area's sewage scheme. Tenders are being called this week for work to begin on the Tomaree scheme, while work is already underway on several schemes in the Maitland, Cessnock, Lake Macquarie and Newcastle areas. Work at Largs and Fassifern is due for completion by the end of the year. Meanwhile, the Minister will report on the Hunter Fringe scheme to the Cabinet Capital Works Committee in September.
Basically, I'm to provide an answer to where the money is going to come from and how long a period it will be over.
Have you any idea at this stage where the money might be coming from?
Oh, the cost will come 50% from the general revenues of the state, and the remainder will be spread, as is the case in Sydney, over the whole of the rate-paying catchment of the Hunter Board. It's very important that we realise that environmental protection is something for the whole community. It's a public health matter that affects the whole community, and the whole of the community will be making a contribution.
Meanwhile, Newcastle residents' water rates contribution is double that paid by their Sydney counterparts.
What happens is that in a smaller population catchment as we have here in Newcastle, the cost of providing the very substantial capital works that are involved have to be spread over that smaller population, and certainly the Hunter Water Board isn't making a profit out of its operation. It's simply paying for what are its operations, and that process, one which was started by the previous Labor government, is supported by the present Liberal and National Party government.
All right, that's fine. Thank you very much. Great.
News of the men's release ended months of anxiety for Pauline Martino. Her 17-year-old son Paul is home in Newcastle already. Her husband will be back from Singapore within a week. The men were with a party of 10 divers picked up on a cargo vessel by an Indonesian gunboat about 60 kilometres southeast of Singapore. They were detained at the Navy town of Tanjung Pinang during lengthy legal proceedings. Mrs Martino says the delays continued even after the men were fined by a local court.
We had quite a push from the Foreign Affairs Department. They had paid the fine, but they were still getting, the runaround.
Mrs Martino says the fines, amounting to several $1,000s, were a trifling amount compared to the months of uncertainty. Almost 2,000 volunteer collectors come to the suburbs seeking donations towards a $300,000 district target. A week of Red Shield activities has already raised more than $120,000 from local businesses.
71.
Would you like to make a donation to the Salvation Army, please? And John?
Appeal organisers were delighted with the number of community groups helping in the door-knock. Even the local fire brigade did its bit. However, late today, donations were falling short. Captain Graham Want says many factors can affect the outcome of the appeal.
Our weather today has been absolutely great, and with that we expect that all of our collectors will turn up and they'll be able to get out there and to do the job. The only thing that does happen when you have a great day is that a lot of people go out, and what that can mean is that when a collector arrives, that there's nobody home.
The Salvos say they aren't disappointed with the outcome, and they're confident many people who weren't home will take advantage of envelopes left at their addresses to make late contributions.
Certainly we believe that by allowing people to hear about our work, and that people give when they understand what we're doing and what's going to happen to their money.
The
Manly were expected to dominate today's game, but it was Newcastle which drew first blood with a penalty goal in the second minute. Both sides put up rock-solid defence, with some bone-jarring, if not borderline tackles. Scoring opportunities were few, with Manly having the only chance of the first half.
Ball over now, kicked over, jumped up Ryan Clinton. Now picked up by Freddie Morton, he's going to score in the corner, is he? No, held up by Glenn Frendo, and up with a touch by tackle Frendo.
Midway through the second half, and Fatty Vorton makes a break to set up the first try of the game. The Premiers now led for the first time in the match and sewed up the valuable 2 competition points following an uncharacteristic mistake from Tony Kemp.
Picked up by Cleo. Cleo run to the line, got it away, and Manly will win this match on lost football. O'Connor scored, O'Connor scored.
The Knights remained trialless, although there was plenty of controversy over this chance right on full time.
He's over. No, held up again. Held up again, I can't believe it. He looked like he was over that time too.
And look at Quentin looking at the linesman, and I saw him, he said, "What's wrong with you?"
Newcastle were far from disgraced and should prove more than a handful for Penrith next week.
He got the ball, pushed hard David Thorne.
He's over.
Got the ball down, absolutely got the ball down.
Unbelievable.
No doubt about it.
Try. Let him try.
Says no try. Without doubt on the radio rentals replay as the full-time siren.
Kumuls started the game in fine form, immediately finding holes in the Central Coast's defence. The first try came in the 12th minute with some individual brilliance from Santo Maria as he zigzagged through the Pelicans' defence. Central Coast replied 12 minutes later with this good backline movement, putting winger Quetcher in the corner. The Pelicans played tough, disciplined football with the forwards running strongly. The sheer talent of the Kumuls kept the local boys running backwards. The Papua New Guinea side scored 4 tries to 2, with Maria, Carrara, Combra and Evie getting the points. Lappin kicked a goal. Quetcher and Thorpe scored for the Central Coast, and Mehmet kicked 2 penalty goals. The Kumuls were ecstatic to win on their last game of the tour, after some disappointing results leading up to this match.
Waking up with someone boot in India.
How did you come to be living here?
Me? I don't know. Out of home. Yeah, out of home. Yeah, couldn't handle home.
That's the sort of life the welfare authorities estimate is being led by more than 1,300 children in the Hunter region. They're the street kids, the kids who make their bed each night in the gutters, the beaches and the deserted homes of Newcastle. It's a situation well known to the Human Rights Authority, to the extent that this year it has undertaken a major inquiry in search of a possible solution. And it's a situation well known to Newcastle Magistrate Phil Molan, who sees these kids front his courtroom in hundreds every week.
They are stealing small amounts of things, small amounts of money or goods that they can hock and things like that, or being in places that they shouldn't be, like other people's houses to sleep.
Mr Molan was one of 12 key speakers to give evidence to today's sitting. He told Human Rights Commissioner Brian Budican he often heard as many as 160 children's court offences in a day at Newcastle and that the situation appeared to be worsening. Mr Molan's evidence was recorded and will feature in the Commission's final report, but the magistrate believes that's not enough. He says the hearing couldn't possibly get a clear picture of the Hunters' homeless problems in just a day.
One of the things that upsets me is that today I understand is the last day of the inquiry, and in one day they're going to try and look at the problems in Newcastle. You know, the problems that I see in Newcastle are problems of education, unemployment, housing, and I can't for the life of me see how those problems, those basic problems, are going to be investigated in one day.
Does Newcastle really seem to care about...
Acting on a tip-off, detectives today stumbled on the stolen uniforms in the boot of a car. Police admit they were surprised by the find, especially when they realised the equipment had all come from the Corrective Services Emergency Response Unit at Maitland Jail.
From when I first looked at it, I thought it might have been property from the Corrective Services, so I knew it wasn't police-issued property. So we came back here and made some inquiries up at the Corrective Services. Found there was a break-in 2 nights ago.
The Corrective Services Department is concerned by the theft, especially since a quantity of .38 calibre ammunition was found with the haul. However, prison officials say all their ammunition and weapons are locked away separately in an armoury. Even more disturbing is an unconfirmed report that an alarm was set off as the thief broke in through the front window. It's understood the alarm was simply switched off by security personnel. Police say they are anxious to question a man already known to them in relation to the find. The theft of flak jackets, gas masks and batons coincides with the disappearance of explosives for an army depot at Denman and another break-in at the Carrington police station where a flashlight and portable radio were stolen. Police say there is no connection between the 3 incidents.
Hello, I'm Tom Hilston. The age of the Seaplane is undergoing a revival in Newcastle with the beginning of a regular return service to Sydney. Operators believe the service will not only meet a new business demand but also a growing tourist potential.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Newcastle is now sitting in 6th place on the league table despite 4 weeks ago being 4th. They looked on top of the world a month back when they downed the previously undefeated Melita 2-0. Since then, they've only managed to salvage a draw in their last 3 outings. In the first round, Newcastle thrashed Ugle 6-0 with Robbie Holden netting a club record 4 goals. However, Ugle have won its last 3 games and is now off the bottom of the table.
And if you beat somebody 6-0 or you've been beaten 6-0, obviously the next time you play them you're going to be a bit more determined to make sure it doesn't happen again, you know. But that's, I'm quite confident we'll do them, aye.
Can you see the boys getting up 6-0 again?
I would like to see it, but being honest, I can't really see us winning 6-0. I'll be quite happy with 1 goal more than the opposition. I'd be quite happy if it was 6-5.
Newcastle will stick with the same team that drew 2-2 with Blacktown last week. Gallagher will also stay with the trio of Porter, Holden and Cummings up front as strikers. He's also confident of getting back into the top 4, with all the remaining matches of the season against sides further down the table than Newcastle.
Well, I'm also quite confident we'll make the semi-finals because it seems we've had a wee few hiccups in that, but they've always bounced back and there seems a lot of character there, and I'm quite happy with the way the lads are performing just now.
Peter has been playing representative soccer with the Northern New South Wales under-19s for the past 2 years, but the step into the national team came as a real shock.
I was very surprised, yeah, because normally the country boys, so-called, we never get a look in. It's always the guys from Sydney.
Since knocking back his apprenticeship, Peter has been concentrating 7 days a week on soccer, working on ball skills during the day and training with Adamstown, his National Youth League team, and Western, his Northern Division team, at night. The young Socceroos fly to Jakarta on Monday to play against some senior Indonesian teams, and in September the side heads to Saudi Arabia for the qualifying rounds of the 1989 World Youth Championships. Peter is looking to greater achievements in the future. One day he hopes to play for the senior Australian side, and then maybe professional soccer in England.
So what happens from here? Bigger and better things to come, I hope. I feel that if I get to my peak over here, I can go to England from there. There's no use to, get halfway over here, then go to England, then not succeed. If you're going to go, you may as well go all the way, I suppose.
At just 30 years of age, Thompson is quickly becoming a legend in hunter racing. His previous best season was in 84-85 when he set an Australasian record of 158 winners. 119 of those were in the Newcastle, Upper Hunter and Central Coast Racing Association area, also a record. Despite having rewritten the record books, Thompson is modest when asked what's his secret, preferring to thank the leading trainers for giving him the best mounts.
I ride for the leading trainer in the area, Paul Perry, and my father's running second. I'm leading and I'm #1 ride for him too, so I've got a lot of good horses underneath me.
You don't have any secrets?
Oh yes, you know, every horse is different to ride and all that, and they like to be rode different ways and all that, so and then some you got to try and outsmart and all that to get the best out of them, but I've got a few little secrets, but I can't give them up. The other boys will know my secret then.
Throughout his 15-year career, he's had plenty of offers to move from Cessnock to Sydney, but he just won't.
I think you've got to be very light and you've got to have a very good stable behind you, and I've always decided to stay at home in the country. I like it too much.
As usual, it didn't take Thompson long to get into the winner's circle at Broadmeadow this afternoon. In the third race, he scored his 160th win of the season on He's a Special.
He's a Special starting to draw away close to home for Robert Thompson. He's a Special wins it by a length and a half to live wire. Third Lake Ross, then Mr. Atwill, French Impression, and last to greet the judge, Rassajuri second.
In their first encounter earlier in the season, Newcastle thrashed Ugle 6-0, but it was a fitter and more determined team who made the trip from Sydney. Coached by former Edgeworth and KB United player Jim McBreen, Ugle kept Australs to a 0-0 score at half-time. Coach Willie Gallagher got stuck into his charges during the break, and it paid off in the 54th minute when striker Martin Cummings scored after a solo effort. Best goal of the game came in the 70th minute. A cross from David Bowen was headed into the back of the net by Brett Porter. Biggest news in local soccer circles is the clash between Newcastle Australs and the Australian Socceroos on Wednesday night, the 31st of August at Austral Park.
Their training camp during the fortnight, of which the 31st is the second Wednesday, is their last training sessions together. So this will be possibly their last game before they go into the Olympics in Korea.
The opening marks a new era in music for Newcastle. The long-awaited hall with its magnificent organ will be the focus of a week of musical celebration. For the next 5 days, the hall will be in constant use, starting with the inaugural recital on the organ by Conservatorium Principal Michael Dudman. That will be followed by performances from the Children's Orchestra, the Chamber Choir, a staff concert and senior student solos. But today the occasion was a chance for the public to have a look at a facility which will provide an elegant venue for musical performance for decades to come. The Conservatorium Hall isn't alone in celebrations. The Newcastle Masonic Lodge has also launched a week of functions to salute the centenary of the United Grand Lodge of New South Wales. This afternoon's service in Christchurch Cathedral follows a ball in Newcastle City Hall last night. Masons across the district will take part in the centenary, with a civic reception at Maitland, a luncheon at Edgeworth Lodge and a concert at Newcastle Civic Theatre next weekend. Freemasons say the centenary is only part of the celebration. They're firmly convinced that members of their brotherhood were also among the first fleeters in 1788.